Well, to take a closer look at it all now, we can speak to our international affairs editor, Armen Georgian. Armen, France, tell us firstly, what's the next step in this health pass process we're all waiting for?
Well, a key stage was when the Council of State approved the health pass in principle. So for the proponents of this pass, that was a very important point in the process, because the Council of State has not opposed the health pass on moral or ethical grounds. It's not opposed to the principle of the health pass, which of course critics say will essentially push around 20 million unvaccinated French people into the shadows. They won't be able to live normally anymore. So the Council of State basically wants to tweak certain things, such as the level of fines for establishments that don't comply, also to change, for example, the hours at which police can come and check whether somebody is self-isolating after testing positive, and so forth. But it's not against the fundamental nature of the pass. What happens next is, as you mentioned, Eve, a debate in Parliament, actually in both houses of Parliament, first the lower house, then the upper house, the Senate. The Senate then says it might ask for a few changes and potentially go to the Constitutional Council as well, not the State Council, but the Constitutional Council later on. But certainly there is a push to try and get everything wrapped up this week. We'll see if that actually comes to pass or not, but it's a very tight schedule as far as the government is concerned, because it wants to push this through as quickly as possible while the fourth wave progresses.
The fines that we're hearing about in case of non-compliance, the government's saying it will leave a bit of time for restaurants, bars and indeed other establishments to adapt. Any idea how long, how that's going to work?
Yeah, on the question of fines, actually, Eve, so the original plan was 45,000 euros in fines for an establishment that doesn't check the health pass of its customers. It seems that figure will be much lower, actually, although there'll be a kind of rising scale for serial non-compliance. But the point that the government spokesperson was making yesterday was that there would be a period of leniency, effectively, because the government says it realizes establishments need time to adapt, so there's not going to be a sort of heavy-handed approach right at the start. The government says that it wants to, quote, accompany, unquote, establishments initially. It knows that they have to reorganize their staff and so on, and that this is not a quick thing. So there probably, yes, will be a kind of grace period for a week or so. That's, I think, what the government was hinting at last night.
And of course, Armen, we're being told we're at the start of a fourth wave. Give us an idea of the overall situation in France regarding Covid-19.
Well, there's one region, the Pyrénées-Orientales in the south of France, near the Spanish border, which is back under certain restrictions. There's masks outside now, so if you walk around the city of Perpignan, people are wearing masks there in public places now, and there's a curfew at 11 p.m. But all of this, I have to say, Eve, has a horrible ring of familiarity to it. So last summer, things started well, then infections started to rise, then there were local curfews which were late, but then they became earlier in the day, and eventually we ended up with a national curfew. So people will, and another thing, the government said ominously on Monday, no option can be ruled out. We have to leave all options on the table. So people listening to that will be saying, well, hang on, are we back to where we were last summer when things seemed to be okay? And then we headed towards national curfews. At one point, there was a 6 p.m. curfew, remember? Is that where France is heading? Obviously, the government will be hoping that this time things will be different because of the vaccination program. The last thing the government wants is to say to French people, well, we're very sorry. We had told you that the vaccination was going to be a way out of this, but actually, we can see that it isn't really. We're going to have to put you all under curfew again, or maybe even national lockdown. Who knows? Let's not panic yet. But it is there is certainly a very kind of unpleasant, familiar ring to anybody who remembers how things played out last summer and autumn.
Armen Georgian for now. Thanks indeed.